Welcome back to Themed Office Hours with Jess. Today, I'm going to talk about multitasking. So this is really me getting into sort of how I like to be very highly productive in sort of unconventional ways. I do want to say that what I'm about to describe is not going to work for everyone. I know that when for example, my fiance, whenever I ask him to do two things at once, he screams at me, or he doesn't scream, but he, does not like it. And is just to show that this kind of doing a lot of things at one time, kind of having to split your attention will not work for everyone. So please take what I say with a grain of salt. If it works for you, great. If not, that's totally okay too. So again, this is kind of getting at that meme that's in my, or not meme, or this tweet that's in my intro video of how I really get a lot of work done in a short period of time, or sometimes even get a lot of work done over a long period of time. But really how I sort of maximize what I'm working on and also the environment I'm in to try and get as much stuff done as possible. So this is what I love doing, is doing multiple things at the same time, if possible. So I love doing work, and I'll get to what work means in a little bit, but I love doing work while also watching TV. This is something I do a lot of, especially when I go home to my parents' house. I just will sit on the couch, watch TV, and then bang out a couple hours of work. It works for me really well. I'm half entertained, but then also still doing the work on my computer, which is great. I also really love doing work while eating breakfast and lunch. For those of you who know me, it takes me 2 hours to eat my meals because of this. But again, it works for me. It's kind of I'm passively doing something else that's kind of I'm eating slowly, and then I'm also kind of doing work. So I'm being productive as well. And I don't know, for me, that makes me feel productive or extra productive. I also love doing work. So I would never say, to multitask while you're on a Zoom call or a meeting. That's kind of important. But, if you find yourself on a Zoom call that's more of a webinar style, where you are sort of more just a passive audience member, I think that's a good opportunity to maybe sneak in some work that can be done and split your attention that way. I also love, getting work done on a plane or train, because this is sometimes a couple of uninterrupted hours where you have no internet access. So literally you cannot get distracted by new emails coming in or new text messages coming in or whatnot. You can just sort of have your to-do list of okay, these are all the offline things I'm going to get done, and get them done. I also love doing work while sitting with my family. I guess this kind of goes back to the first thing I said about watching TV, but sometimes when I just go home and I'm spending time with my family members or my parents or whatnot, it's sort of nice. We're all just in the same room, and then they can be doing their thing. My parents will I don't know, be on their iPads, and then I'll be on my computer, and it still feels like we're in each other's presence and spending time with each other, but we're all kind of also doing our own thing. But yeah, just having that split attention is kind of what I'm able to do while doing some of these things. On the other side, I will never work while also eating dinner. So basically for me, once it hits dinner time, I do not do any more work for the rest of the day. So that's sort of my own rule for myself. Anytime that I do find myself doing work while eating dinner, I'm quite miserable. So that's just something that works for me. I will never work while hanging out with my friends. I obviously want to protect my social time. And unless I'm studying with them, which is quite rare these days. But again, if I'm out having a good time with my friends, that's what I'm doing. I will also not work if I'm sleep deprived. If I didn't have a good night's sleep and I have a ton of things on my to-do list, I will just take a nap and just not do the work and be okay with pushing it off. just because it's more important for me to like get good sleep. And I'll talk about that in another future video as well. I will also not work while exercising. Like I don't get the people who are able to like read while they're like riding on a bicycle in the gym or like walking on the treadmill. Like that one just makes me nauseous. And like two, like my exercise time is like one of the few times again in the day where I can completely dissociate with technology and just focus on like me and my body. So I really want to protect that time. I also don't work while I'm like on the bus or in a car. Like it like boggles my mind when I like see people take their laptops out or like they're like reading like not novels, but just like articles or like manuscripts like on the bus that I take around Boston. So again, this is just what doesn't work for me. This could work for you. Again, a lot of these things, this is a very personalized set of advice on this video. So the kind of key is to figure out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and remember that and make the most of what does work for you. And then the kind of next big thing that I want to talk about that I think really helps with figuring out how you can multitask is figuring out and categorizing different types of work. So what I mean for that, and this is kind of how I imagine it, is in my head, there are like 3 zones of work. There's really easy stuff. Then there's like the kind of moderate work that you need a little bit more focus and attention to. And then there's the stuff that like, okay, you need to sit down and laser focus and you can't have any distractions. So I've kind of categorized a couple of things into these categories of stuff that I've had to do over the past couple of years, or I currently do a lot of. So in easy, I think that's like responding to emails or like running descriptive data analyses, like stuff that like you kind of don't have to think too much to do, but just sort of have to like get through. That all can fall under easy. And this is the kind of stuff that I can do while I'm like watching TV or there's like a lot of like noise happening, or like I don't really need to focus too much. It's kind of just like fun stuff that's like keeping my mind and my typing, I guess, a little bit occupied, but I'm not having to like invest like a ton of brain power to like make this happen. More low stakes types activities. And then in moderate, so now this is like reading like light papers. Like if I'm just like, if I'm having to skim some readings or whatnot, or I'm like editing a paper, not necessarily like writing it for the first time, but just like reading through and like making comments or like fixing comments on a paper. I also put grading in here. This might, again, these things might fall into different categories for different people, but I think for me, just because I've TA'd a lot now, I feel like I can put grading here in the moderate. And then also just sort of like light coding, whether that be qualitative or quantitative coding. I do all my coding in R. So if I'm just kind of working on not something too difficult, I feel like I can put that in the moderate. So things that fall into easy and moderate, I'm able to do while doing these things listed here. So if I can do easy to moderate while also, you know, eating breakfast and lunch, or maybe having a meeting, not a meeting, a webinar open on my computer and multitasking that way. But when it comes to this last column, this hard column of work, this is when I like really have to heads down and be like, okay, no distractions. And that's when I like really have to get through like a really dense reading and need to read like almost every line of it. Okay, then I will try not to be distracted. Whenever I have to draft a manuscript, the first like actually write the words for the first time, I definitely cannot be multitasking. Also back when I was taking a lot of classes, definitely when I was like working on problem sets or like having to study or memorize for an exam, I would also make sure to like have sort of a nice, quiet, focused environment for that. And then of course, whenever I'm troubleshooting R code that is not running, I feel like I can't think of anything else in the entire world. And all of my energy is sort of directed to that. So there are definitely a lot of things that I recognize that I can't do while multitasking. So I think it's important to figure out what these different categories are for you, and to even like do this exercise of like charting this out, and keeping this in mind as you do work moving forward. So again, kind of ending on some overall tips. This is also helpful because this helps me prioritize like what to do first. So if I have a really long to-do list for my day, I'll tend to do my easier items first, just because like if I'm able to check off like, okay, I responded to all my emails, I, filled out this table that I needed to do, like things that are a little bit like more bite-sized and easier to do, and I can feel the sensation of finishing something. Then when I get to like the more difficult things, the moderate and ultimately to the hard stuff on my to-do list, it doesn't feel like I've just been stuck working on one thing for like a long period of time. It's like, okay, I'm on a roll. I'm getting a lot of stuff done. Okay, now I'm going to focus on working on this like harder item on my to-do list. I've said this a lot in my other videos, but want to reiterate it here. Figure out your most productive times of day, especially for that last hard column of work, and really protect that time. And what I mean by that is like, for me, like I know that I am the most productive in the afternoon, after I've done my midday workout and eaten my lunch. So that chunk of time I always save for like manuscript writing, and then I will try not to like book other meetings or book other activities during that time, so I can sit down and focus on that. And ideally, and this is my last bullet point, do that at home, because that's where I'm most comfortable and that's my ideal workspace. So again, figure out what being comfortable means to you and make sure you have that comfortable environment when you are doing your work. And again, thank you. That's all I have in regards to multitasking. Again, this might not work for everyone, but I think it's something that you can explore. And I think going through even the activity of sorting out your different types of work for what you feel is easy, medium, and hard, and using that to prioritize, I think can be really helpful. So thank you. Try it out. Let me know how it goes. And yeah, let me know if you have any comments or suggestions. Thank you.